guys, Retro Gaming Guy here. So a brand new emulator has officially released to the Apple App Store. That means that we can now effectively emulate NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo DS, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and even N64 now direct to our iPhones, which isn't necessarily anything that we couldn't do before, but this emulator is supposed to be pretty impressive, very easy to use with integrated on-screen controls. So we're going to go ahead and download it today direct to my iPhone. I have some ROMs already installed on my iPhone that I can drop right in, and we're going to test this out, see what the experience is like. Let's dive into it. All right, so we're going to download this real quick from the Apple App Store, and here we go. You can see once it downloads, it's going to say right on here, open. So we're going to go ahead and just simply open that up. Now, right here, it takes you right to your games, and it says right here, no games. That means that you have to import those yourselves. So it's not going to come with games loaded on here. You're not going to have access to ROMs through this or anything like that. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to hit this plus in the top right corner, and you're going to obviously need to have some games already on your phone. Now, you can also go into iTunes. You can find some stuff that way, but I already have some files saved. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually open this up, and right inside here, you can see that I have Super Mario Brothers ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Once it's checked like that, you're going to simply hit open. So we'll open this right up, and there we go. It says right there, Super Mario Brothers 3. We're going to simply open it up just by simply clicking on it, and take a look at this. Pretty impressive. Now, you do need to have your volume enabled, obviously, but we can go into menu, and we can actually make save and load states on here. So all we have to do is simply hit that menu button, which I'll go back there. You'll notice that we have a NES style controller, but we have a little menu button right above the A button. So if we go ahead and we hit that, it opens up the ability to bring in cheat codes, to fast forward, to save, to load, and to use the hold buttons here. So we have a bunch of different options, which is pretty cool. All right, guys, so that was my very first time. First off, right off the bat, I'm terrible at Super Mario Brothers. Always have been. I'm a Sonic guy. I can play Sonic much better than I can do anything on Super Mario Brothers. So I'm pretty terrible anyways, but definitely takes a little getting used to, with the touchscreen controls. They do feel very responsive. There's no lags or delays or anything like that. So I definitely think some people would really enjoy this. For me, I like that physical touch to the buttons. That's what I'm used to. And with a game that I'm not great at, that's what I would kind of require to be halfway decent at it. But I could definitely get used to this. Like I said, it's very responsive. But let's jump into some other games here, because I definitely want to see if there's something maybe I'm a little bit better at than just Super Mario Brothers.
Mario Grand Prix. Select your player. Let's go. Select match.
That absolutely sucks in terms of, let me mute that. That absolutely sucks in terms of how it actually moves with the analog stick on there. Just really all over the place. The only way I'm able to somewhat stay on the road is if I just kind of tap it in the direction that I want to go, but it just tracks terribly there. I'm actually going to try it now vertical, which you can see with the vertical setup that the controls would just be totally out of whack for some games. With Mario Kart 64, they'd probably work fine because we have easy access to the A button there. Z button, or Z trigger in this case, is right there as well, right above the A button. So it does seem like they have laid this out as well as they can for N64. Obviously, that is a tough one to get right with, a vertical sort of layout here. But let's try to resume this, or maybe I'll just start over in the vertical sort of format here and see if it's any better. But it's still the same analog stick, so I just think it's going to be very much the same experience here. Let's give it a go. Yeah, it's not my thing. It's just not. Yeah, I think I could probably, with practice, get used to that analog stick, but I'd really have to like drag it over, let it go, and it would just still be that sort of overcorrecting sort of feel to it. It's just way too sensitive. Yeah, it's just not great there. If you could use the D-pad to navigate, I feel like it would be much better because then you could kind of navigate. It's going to be a tighter navigation. It's not going to be as like loose and flimsy. And I feel like you wouldn't be like constantly overcorrecting in different ways. I'm sure somebody out there could master this much quicker than me. But for me, it's just a little bit too awkward to enjoy here. But I want to try some other games here. I want to try Super Nintendo. Let's jump into some Donkey Kong Country. Let's see what the experience is like with the more retro side of things. Let's also bring in either a Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance game and try that out as well, because I think that could be a lot of fun with this. I just think that something that uses analog sticks, you're not going to enjoy like this. Doesn't mean you can't bring in physical controls that kind of, hug the actual phone, and, bring those into the mix. I think that would make this a phenomenal experience because performance-wise, the game runs extremely well, and I'm using a iPhone 14. So I'm not even using the latest and greatest iPhone, and it's performing beautifully on here. It's just the controls that suck for N64. But for Super Nintendo, I would imagine it's going to be good. Let's find out. All right, guys, so that was actually a pretty decent experience here. The D-pad is still tough for me to get used to. Again, I'm just not a touchscreen guy at all when it comes to retro controls especially, but just controls in general. It just is an awkward feel for me personally, but it does work very well. Very smooth gameplay on here. You can definitely get used to the button jumps and the different functions of the A, B, X, and Y. However, the D-pad, very similar to the analog sticks, much smoother because it is a more basic function, but still very much feels awkward for me. Especially when I'm going one direction, I want to switch to the other. It just, I don't know, it's not what I'm used to. I'm used to just kind of rolling the Super Nintendo controller in order to get that D-pad to go from left to right. In this case, you're sliding. I don't know, it's just awkward for me. Coming from somebody that played on the original system, it's awkward. I would imagine like a younger kid that is more familiar with this type of technology than the old school original, controllers, they're probably going to gravitate towards this more so than somebody that's a little bit more retro, or in other words, old. Definitely makes you feel a little bit older when you're saying stuff like, I don't prefer, touchscreen controls over the old school 25, 30-year-old controls. But let's try Game Boy Advance out. All right, guys, so Sonic Advance here, not the smoothest experience just because it all comes down to that D-pad for me. And it comes down to even the slightest navigations. You either fully commit to going left or right. It's hard to do those little small increments of, navigation there. Like when I'm trying to just jump ever so slightly, I find that I'm constantly over jumping and then having to go back, and then I'm over correcting that way. So it's very similar, again, just on a smaller scale, to what I experienced over there on Mario Kart 64 for N64. So I'm going to try this now with the vertical sort of setup here. I think that might be a little bit smoother for me, but still, it's just that D-pad, the navigations of that I'm just not a fan of. So let's give this a go. right. So yeah, I mean, the game works perfectly. It's just those controls yet again. I mean, I keep saying the same thing, but it's those damn controls. And it's not even that they're not responsive. It's that you just don't. If you're not looking at that D-pad, it's tough to know where you are on it. Like I'm looking at the game, obviously. So I'm just where on a physical controller, you would just go off of feel purely. You wouldn't be looking at the D-pad knowing if you're going left or right. But because there's no ridges to it, there's no feel to it other than the fact that you're just on a smooth surface. There's no way of really knowing the difference between going D-pad left or going D-pad right without physically locking your eyes down on that. And when you do that, your timing is just going to be off in the game. So yeah, it's an awkward experience just with the touchscreen controls once again, but it performs beautifully. It's so easy to use. I mean, it's totally idiot proof here. You just simply hit the plus, drop your ROM files in. You can download ROM files if you want. I'm not going to say where to get them from, but you can download them directly from your phone onto your phone. Simply upload them with that little plus button there, and it automatically drops them into the necessary collection. So you can just auto launch it, and it's really a smooth performance here. It really is an exceptional experience. I would want to actually test this further though, and I probably will do a part 2 video with actual physical controls that I can bring into the mix here and connect over to my phone, because that would be a total game changer in my opinion. But the Delta emulator definitely is well put together, idiot proof. Performance is great on here. Obviously, you're going to have a phone that is capable of doing all of what you're trying to do, but great experience in the end, very user friendly. Definitely check it out on the Apple App Store. That's going to do it for today. Let me know what you guys thought of this video. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the content today. And of course, hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.